Who doesn't like a good old round in the batting cages? Kovox Pitch is a casual rhythm game that comes out on Steam on January 17th, 2021, aka today, for the price of $11, with a $1 discount in the first week. It's a rhythm game that takes a more thematic approach of using baseball and pitching machines that has a story mode, a free play mode, and a song editor. But before I begin this review, this key was obtained from the developer for the purposes of review. That won't change my opinion of the game in the end, but you should know that because of FTC guidelines, as well as the whole morals thing, you know? So Kovox Pitch is a rhythm game where you hit baseballs in rhythm to the music. You play as a father and son combo that reconnect over swinging the stick repeatedly to the sound of music of the levels. And yes, the music and rhythm is canonically explained to happen in the world with the pitching machines. No, they don't go into major detail on it, it just sort of works. But you know what? I did appreciate that it pointed it out that it was purposeful in the music, than it just being an idea of it just happening. But of course, this is a rhythm game, so let's dive into the gameplay first. As pitches come across the play area, you'll want to hit the ball as close to the middle of the circle as possible in rhythm to the beat. There are a couple of different levels that you can hit score-wise, from a perfect to great to good to missing entirely, each obviously worth a particular set of points. I mean, like any other rhythm game. You do get a combo meter with the number of balls you hit in a row, and you have a health meter if you miss a ball or two that, if filled up entirely, will result in the failure of a song. Successful hits, however, help restore a small amount of it, depending on the difficulty of the song, either easy, medium, or hard. As to note types, you get a couple. You get standard notes with the white league regulation baseballs, but red and blue balls must be hit by a specific button press. You get these balls when you have to hold the key down like you would in any other rhythm game, and these jagged ones you have to hit over and over again. Now that doesn't explain how you multi-hit things, but you know what? I'm just gonna assume this is a baseball anime, and it just happens with the power of friendship. Anyway, you also get these curved balls that change the paths as well, and you end up getting multiple lanes that you have to switch back and forth between, with a specific note that you have to switch out on right away. So how does that all work from a rhythm game perspective? Well, somewhere between good and great. Why I'm hesitant to just say great is that I will admit, when it comes to the actual leniency of the notes, I feel like the perfect area is pretty forgiving, and so is the great. I feel like it gives a good amount of milliseconds overall to make the hit, and to be perfectly honest, that will be great for more casual players out there. But for those really wanting a challenge, I feel like the game is definitely in the easier set of rhythm games out there. Now take this with the knowledge that rhythm games seem to be one of my better genres. I only failed in the main story on 2 levels. Once because I had shifted to the other lane before it introduced that mechanic, and I really didn't know what was going on. And one level I failed 2 times, thinking that I was seeing a bug regarding the balls getting bigger on curved balls, only to realize that it was happening in the foreground and I had missed the switch lanes ball. The switch balls are a little weird to think of at first, as you sort of hit them and yet don't, but it does add a layer of challenge that does help the game in the long run. Even with those accuracy concerns, I can't deny that the actual beats of the notes felt spot on to the songs that were being played here. Maybe it was the fact that the guitar was so prevalent in a lot of the songs, and it was clearly identifiable which notes the beats were on that were being hit. In fact, in that area, especially in the indie game market, Kovox Pitch was probably one of the most accurate, at least in my opinion, of the rhythm games out there from a feeling standpoint. And that does go a long way. In terms of challenging the player, it does do a good job of mixing the different notes up, and does well in the story mode to ramp up the challenge over time in a progressive fashion. It uses the mixture of blue and red having to hit them in succession well, but I will admit I do wish the game took it further at certain points. I never really got the real stuck element like you'd see in a Guitar Hero or even a Muse Dash, where a particular set of notes and mechanics would give me trouble, forcing me to practice it a couple of times to get it down. That never happened in this game. However, when I specifically started the review by calling it a casual rhythm game, despite the fact that may give the wrong idea about its possible difficulty, is the fact that the game has a calming effect in the main story. I mean, the songs chosen here are light rock with Russian vocals, at least I think they're Russian, and it does a great job of just calming me down and making me forget about outside stressors. However, that comes with a caveat. The main story's gameplay's weakest element would be the song variety. A lot of the songs sound very similar to each other in the end, even when they have a reasonably different BPM to it. And I get the fact that, yes, this is a small project with a limited budget, and it sounds like the good amount of music was done by one or two people probably. But I can't help but think the game would have had more striking of an effect, with the baseball gameplay in particular, if you had more heavy metal or even folk music showing up here and there. And I don't want to say the quality of the music isn't good here. It's fine, it's good even, but when you hear it over and over again, it starts to blur together. Take a listen to the couple of tracks and see what I'm talking about. But luckily, there's another thing I obviously need to mention. The Steam store page description that you can use your own tracks and create your own levels. As you can see on the screen, you can control the levels to, I believe, the half beat? Honestly, this is where my lack of knowledge in music terms doesn't exactly come into play. But you can import music and place your own beats down here. Although, I will say it's a little strange the format's chosen. I mean, WAV and OGG files. Okay, great. But not MP3? I mean, you could download something like Format Factory and change MP3 to WAV files. I use it for these videos for certain types of footage. But it's strange not to include one of the most common ones. But nevertheless, being able to create a level for some of your favorite songs, I can't say that's not cool. The interface is simple, but workable with the hotkeys here. Being able to zoom in and out for songs down to the small beat to get all those small details right for a song is great, and it felt natural in when I was playing things, at least for the most part. There are a couple things that did bother me, like how replaying the song and its parts doesn't automatically move the scroll bar there, meaning you've got to manually move it to see the notes at times. Wish it would go along with it more automatically or it be an option. And I do wish I could rebind the keys above in this editor to really get control, like with one hand. But if you're detailed and meticulous, it should work just fine for you. However, here's the catch. So there's no Steam Workshop support to share the music levels that you create. Now obviously sharing the music itself would be a big no-no. That would come with every lawsuit known to man, and that's the last thing a small indie dev needs. So I get that part. Luckily, there is a way for you to share the data with your friends if you so want to. If you're on Windows, you'll need to be able to see hidden data in folders. I'll link a video to that in the description below if you don't know how. But from there, go to the currently logged in users folder, go to Local Low, App Data, Claveris, Kovox Pitch, Tracks. The track data will be there along with the copied song, so if you want to give the track data to someone else so they can use it, that'd be how you'd share it. The track data itself, not the song itself, because I don't want to be dealing with the music industry either. For the sake of that, I've included a couple of examples on a file sharing service in the description below of songs that I tried to create in the editor. They're not all going to be bangers, and they're not all going to be 100% accurate, but I wanted to show you that, yeah, you can make these songs yourself. Some of these are ones you would expect from me in particular, and some you'd expect from a game with a rhythm editor in particular. Take a listen.
Sensei so magnificent.
Granted, I think it'd be nice if the actual track data, not the music, the track data, could be shared via an in-game tool or Steam Workshop. But I also understand that the confusion of different versions of music and titles could lead to some conflicts. And again, the concern about getting the unwanted attention of the music industry is valid. You may be sharing the track data for a song like Indie Mouse's Blinding Lights, but when it comes to people who are trying to take those kind of things down, they're just gonna see, oh, Blinding Lights, and try to take it down. So yeah, I get it. The reason why I'm sort of sticking on this is that there's enough here in the aesthetic and possible gameplay that it's rewarding to get down to the little details of a song, but not troublesome enough where players will be turned off even trying to create something in the editor. The fact is, that editor is easy to use. It's a little bit, quirky in certain places, but I could make a song in 15 minutes if I so wanted, and that goes a long way. Having a more shareable service within the game would have really helped that to make people do things and then contribute themselves, but the potential is there for a community here. Let me shift gears and talk a little bit about the overall presentation. The visuals are fine. They have nice details at certain times, like having a rat in the background moving, or a colorful Ferris wheel. But none of that part of the presentation truly distracts from the gameplay itself. The solid use of primary color of the notes really does help. And the fact is, while the effects aren't anything that are going to wow you, you may even be disappointed in them, it still gives you enough to make you recognize a particular note at a very quick glance. And while some of it is appropriate to the story that gets told in the game, sadly the presentation does suffer a bit with a lack of life and interaction with the world around it. You'd think that the sound of baseballs being hit would attract even a few people, and quite frankly, the world feels dead around you with how the gameplay goes. While I understand that it definitely wasn't the focus, the gameplay was. The presentation, especially the visuals, doesn't exactly wow at any point. And for a game like this that probably wants to be shared and create a community, the game needed more oomph at times, especially if you want it to get shared around. The sound design, for example, is fine. It gives you a good solid sound that doesn't overshadow the actual music that is playing, but complements it. And it does sound like an actual baseball being hit on the notes. So I don't know why I have a problem with it. I feel like being a little bit more creative and being a little more loose with the idea of baseball, bat hitting baseball, would have helped the game stand out more. Again, that oomph. Some of the best rhythm games have that oomph, that element that sort of takes it over the edge. The Project Diva series, in terms of Hatsune Miku, Muse Dash, they all have those moments where, yeah, the sound design is a little bit, not necessarily off, it's different, and it makes you pay attention to it. As for the overall story, the Steam store page indicated that it's a wholesome story. And I guess it is? See, the basic structure of this story, besides the setup I did towards the start of the video, is that the dad talks about his past and relates it to his son. Okay, I shouldn't say talks with his son. The thing is, he lectures his son, because the discussion is all one way for like 99% of it, which actually I think is sort of a detriment in how the story is told. The game opens up about how the kid is having troubles, how he doesn't necessarily have friends, and how he seems lost. And it's up to a dad who's been away to really help his son to see what the world has to offer. He does that through his stories, about his youth, what he did with his friends, how it relates to right now, and really does seem to care about his son. These lessons are good and heartfelt. Granted, some of the lessons definitely feel a little off thanks to the English translation. It's not horrible, but I will admit that at some points, I had to do a, wait, what? Take on some of the sentence structure, and I had to even look up a word or two that they used that didn't necessarily naturally fit into the sentence that it was going for. Nevertheless, having the kid actually interact with the dad may actually make it seem like the lessons were actually being listened to and would have probably helped the writing sink in a little bit more. But without that, it honestly feels like a man rambling while somebody hits baseballs after the rambles. In the end, Kovox Pitch does do what it set out to do in terms of a rhythm baseball game that does enough to earn the attention with the accurate rhythm gameplay, but sadly never wows you at any point. The music is good, but could have used more variety. The presentation is fine, but lacks a knockout punch. And the shining tool of the editor that could make the community that could turn this into another hit, like Muse Dash, is hindered by the lack of sharing options in-game. But when looking at the game, I see a casual rhythm game that will help take the pressure off the world for certain players. That's why it gets a 70 out of 100, making it a niche buy for those who love the genre, but for others, you'll want to wait for a sale. But that does not take into account my enhancer system, which tries to take the original score, the more objective score, and tries to add things to try to match the games more to you. If you fall into one of the following categories on the screen strongly, add or subtract that score to the main score. If the first digit of your score changes, refer to this chart to see if the game falls into the buyability range for you. This is also a unique case for enhancers, as the possibility of community contributions would help the game a lot, but obviously that's not going to be there right away. So even if you don't buy it now, it could be something that could really be worth your time if the right songs and mixtures are added to it. That's it for this review. This week, I'll be streaming several games over on Twitch of the indie variety, like I do every week, such as Rescue Live, Paparazzi, if I don't get a review code sooner and actually do a first impressions of the game, and I even throw a more non-indie title this week in there with Returnal. As for the next review, you can find that out if you join the Discord, where we discuss all sorts of gaming topics, have fun, and maybe have more community events in the future. At least I'm hoping I can actually pull them together. Leave your feedback on this review in the comments below so I can become a better reviewer. And subscribe if you want to see more like this. That's it for now, and as always, keep on gaming.